Hello from the 210. I hope this finds y'all well. I just walked a little over a mile in the merciless San Antonio sun, and it felt good to drip sweat. So there has been some interest lately on natal chart readings. For a while there, I was advertising that service, and I stopped because it's a lot of work. I don't have a computer program. When someone asks me to analyze their natal chart for them, I go to astro.com, I plug in the data, the date, time, location of birth, and I write it all down, and I take copious notes. I'm going to go ahead and offer that service again. What it is, for $100, you're going to get a 30-minute video in which I will explain the most important components of your natal chart. I'm not going to get into asteroids. I'm not going to get into minor aspects. There are specific things that I'm going to be looking at. I use tropical Western astrology. I use the equal house system, and I go to astro.com. Okay. It's very simple. Sun, moon. I don't know why I'm writing it down because I'm speaking as I write it down. Sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Neptune, Pluto. I can also look at the North Node. The North Node's pretty damn important. And of course, it matters which houses these things fall in. But it's like I've said a lot at this channel, I believe that the keys to synastry are the moon and Mercury. You also want to look at your chart ruler. For example, I have Sun and Venus in Aquarius in the 6th house, which is the house of Virgo. I have Virgo rising. Mercury rules Virgo, so Mercury is my chart ruler. My Mercury makes a fuck ton of aspects, and it is in my 7th house, the house of partnership, marriage, Pisces, so pretty important. I look at talking about the keys to synastry, the moon, Mercury, the chart ruler, and its tightest aspect. So in my case, it would be my moon at 6 Virgo in the 1st house, my Mercury at 14 Pisces in the 7th, and Mercury being my chart ruler, the tightest aspect it makes a very tight square to my Saturn, 13 Gemini, in the 10th, the house of Capricorn. I can also look at your progressed chart and any transits if you request it, but for a 30-minute reading to be really intense and in-depth, it's enough just to look at these things, okay? And by major aspects, I mean major aspects. Sextile, conjunction, opposition, the trine, and the square. It's very basic because I've watched a lot of astrology videos myself at YouTube. And I feel that a lot of readers or astrologers they get into the esoteric stuff. They go too deep. They talk about things that are not really, I don't think, of any importance, that aren't going to show up in your mundane day-to-day life. Okay. I talk about relationships almost exclusively at my channel. I focus on romantic sexual relationships. So when I'm talking about the keys to synastry, the moon, Mercury, the chart ruler, its Titus aspect, that's the lens I'm looking through. Because like I've said in numerous videos, I had this kind of tower moment the fall of 2014, and I called an astrologer, or I had a phone consultation with an astrologer, a 30-minute or an hour consultation on the phone, and she said a few things that were meaningful, but she didn't hit the most critical points. And so I had to do a deep dive, and I had to go to astro.com and just stare at my data until my eyeballs bled. I just spent hours analyzing my chart myself. And the conclusion I came to is that if you have a really complicated chart like mine, I mean, my chart is just all over the place. There's an emphasis on the mutable signs in my chart. I have a grand mutable cross, so it's got Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius on it. When you have a complicated chart like mine that's all over the place, you really have to kind of do this astrological triage, focus on the most pertinent things. Why the moon? Because that's our pain body, that's our feelings, our emotions, our daily habits and routines. If you're going to be with someone long term and you want something optimal that's going to feel good, you want to have good moon synastry. My personal belief is that the conjunction and the opposition are best. Tide orb, always 5 degrees or less. Mercury, that's communication. You can't really be happy with someone long term if you don't understand each other, if you don't speak the same love language, which the love language is not really Mercury. I guess that's more Venus. But just basic conversations, just everyday conversations. I think Mercury is also sense of humor. Some would say Jupiter is sense of humor. But communication's everything. It just is. There's too much emphasis on Mars, Venus, sexual attraction. Of course, if you're going to be in union with someone, you have to be attracted to the person. But I know from personal experience, Mars, Venus does not last. You have to have good moon and Mercury. The chart ruler, well, that's how you present yourself to the world, and that determines your house system. It determines what's your first house, what's your second house. So me having Virgo rising, Virgo is my first house, and Leo is my 12th house. What else? So the chart ruler, that's like the Energizer bunny of your chart. So Mercury, if you have Mercury as your chart ruler, which would mean that you have Gemini or Virgo rising, it's going to be especially important to you that you have good communication with your partner. And the tightest aspect, that's the quality of the communication. So my Mercury making a tight square to my Saturn in the 10th, no less, which is the house of Capricorn, I take my communication pretty seriously. I'm very intense, even at Instagram. I don't really post a lot of memes. When I'm texting someone a romantic sexual interest, I'm not really glib. It's not really about flirting for me. It's about really going in deep and getting to know the person. Some people are okay with casual sex, just having flings with whoever. That's never worked for me. I get really deep in my relationships. And that's partly the Mercury-Saturn square. Also, I have a tight Mars-Pluto square, and that's very Scorpionic because Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. Some would say that it's still the ruler of Scorpio, and Pluto is the new ruler of Scorpio. So if you have a tight Mars-Pluto square, you're going to come across Scorpionic. So I'm pretty intense in my communication. Some would say that I'm too serious, I'm too old school, I'm too old-fashioned. But there's a vetting process, you know, when you're getting to know someone, when you're texting. If you're texting paragraphs, which I tend to do, and the person you're texting just gives one-word responses and they're pretty monosyllabic, nice, cool, hot, that's a no-go. That's not going to work for me. So that's it. I talk to the camera for 30 minutes and I discuss the major stuff, the blood and guts of your natal chart. I can also look into, it's part of it, the kind of partner that you're going to be attracted to. If you're a woman, you look to your Mars. If you're a man, you look to your Venus. For a woman, if you're heterosexual, even if you're not, your future spouse, you're going to look to Jupiter for that. Okay? In marriage, it's important to have good Jupiter and Saturn aspects. Jupiter for good luck, abundance, and Saturn for gravitas, longevity. Because when the shit comes down and you're burying a family member, or you just lost a pet, you just lost your job, someone that you have really good Mars-Venus with, but the rest is mediocre in your synastry, that person's not going to be there necessarily giving you comfort, holding your hand, getting you through a grieving process. For that, you really want to look at the moon. And someone who's there beside you when you're at your absolute worst, I would say Saturn for that. So that's what I have. I do this full time. I make content for my channel, and I do private readings full time. Hit me up. Muchas gracias. How do you stop this? There we go.